everyone. So my name's Stefanie, obviously, she just said that. And to give you guys just a really quick background before we jump into the program. So my family and I are originally from Utah. We moved here 4 years ago for me to attend Drake Law School. I'm currently a paralegal by trade. This is more of my hobby. But that's why we're in Iowa. So if you hear me referencing Utah, it's not because I'm traveling back there, it's because that's where we were. So, all right, so now we're gonna jump in. So there has always been an idea that psychics had the ability to help the government, the police agencies with various things. And during the height of the Cold War, the government decided to fund a $20 million project in order to find out if psychics could spy on the Russians without actually taking them anywhere. It lasted over 2 decades. It was called Project Stargate, and it started in 1972 and ran until 1995 when the government decided to pull funding and force the CIA to close the project. Let's see, it explored if the psychics had the ability to read other people's mind or telepathy, predict the future, or to view a place or time remotely without actually being there, which is called remote viewing. The remote viewing research got underway in 1972 at the Stanford Research where parapsychologists Russell Targ and Harold Puthroth, I think I'm probably sorry that, began testing people that they deemed gifted. One of the best known individuals that they examined for the first phase of the project was celebrity psychic Uri Geller. For 8 days, Uri was locked in a room where officials performed various experiments on him to test his supernatural abilities. These tests measured his ability to see hidden drawings, find buried metal, and bend spoons with his mind. Apparently, he was a human metal detector. As a result of his success during this period, the CIA concluded that Geller had demonstrated paranormal ability in a convincing and ambiguous manner. During the 2-decade-long span, they tested over 40 gifted individuals, and despite the mounting evidence that many of these psychics had the abilities to perform and provide accurate accounts of the remote viewing sessions, the government cut the funding and the CIA shut it down. Oh, don't do this. I hate technology. There we go. These are just some slides that show some of the tests that were done throughout the Project Stargate. I'm sure most of you have seen Ghostbusters, the original one, right? Where he's holding up a little card and they have to guess it, and that poor guy gets shocked over and over again. That's actually what they were doing in Project Stargate. They were holding up cards and seeing if they could get them right. And then this is some of the declassified documents from the project that they had their psychics fill out. They were trying to see what information they could gather. A lot of it was focused on remote viewing, which we'll go into detail of what that is here at the end. But these are just some of the notes from some of the psychics that they tested. Okay, now a lot of police agencies, whether they admit it or not, when they get to the part where a case is completely dead with no leads, or if it has become a cold case, they will sometimes bring in psychics, or sometimes at the pressing of the victim's family, they will bring in psychics to try to help solve cases when they can't stir anything up. There are over 20 documented, well-known cases that a psychic has helped solve a case that was otherwise unsolvable. And this first one is Andre Diago. And on June 9th of 1987, when he was 27 years old, he had been out drinking all night, and after he left the bar, he was never seen again. His sister was informed that he had gone missing, but that the police didn't suspect foul play, and so they were refusing to open up an investigation on it. So she took matters into her own hands and hired a psychic, Rosemary Kerr, to pick up where the New Orleans Police Department refused to do anything else. The psychic placed a finger on his photo and sensed immediately that he was dead, according to her testimony in the murder trial that followed. She also correctly identified that Andre's body would be found in a New Orleans swamp, and that discovery is what helped break the case, which resulted in the conviction of two men who ended up testifying that they killed Andre for sport. Kerr was the first psychic to ever be placed on the witness stand in a murder trial. And this is one that I found incredibly fascinating because I am going into law, and I work in the legal field now. There have been very, very, very few cases where anything paranormal has been allowed to be admitted into court. Ed and Lorraine Warren were successful in one case in proving that the defendant was possessed. And then this is another one where they actually brought the psychic in and were able to use her testimony to convict a guy. He ended up getting a life sentence. So this is Amy Hoffman, and on November 23rd of 1982, when she was 18, she left work at the shopping center she worked at in New Jersey. The next day, her car was found exactly where she had parked it, but only the driver's door was wide open. The police immediately suspected foul play, but they were unable to come up with any suspects. So they approached Nancy Weber, a local psychic that they successfully worked with in the past. She informed the police that she had already had visions of the assault the night before and saw what Amy had to endure prior to the murder and the location of her body. She guided police through each step of the investigation, and the information she provided ultimately ended with the murder conviction, when the murderer, right after he had killed Amy, he admitted to killing another 25-year-old male shortly after, and he also bled them, so he got a double conviction. And it was all because that psychic gave him the information. Elizabeth Cornish. So in 1987, a then 42-year-old nurse and mother of 5 was beaten to death in her New Jersey apartment. The only suspect was her boyfriend, and he was the one who had discovered her body. However, her family insisted that the boyfriend was incapable of committing the crime. So the victim's sister approached a psychic, Nancy Weber, for assistance. Weber knew immediately that the boyfriend was not the one who had committed the crime and contacted the local police. The local police were familiar with her and some of her work, where they had worked with her in the past, and they allowed her to assist in the investigation. At the scene of the crime, Weber told police that the killer lived right upstairs from Cornish. Weber's description of the killer matched 33-year-old John Reese, who lived in the apartment above the victim. Reese provided a solid alibi for the time of death that the coroner originally identified. However, the psychic was relentless in her belief that not only was Reese the killer, but that the time of death was wrong. So she persistently annoyed the coroner until he was convinced to go back in and re-examine the body, which led to him changing the time of death. That rendered Reese's alibi completely moot. He had no alibi for the actual time of death. After he was approached with that, he confessed and he was sentenced to life in prison. So this one is one of the ones that had a very happy ending. So Debbie Keys from Hardy, New Jersey, hadn't seen her 3 children since her ex-husband had abducted them 13 months prior. The detective working the case was at a dead end, and so Debbie approached a psychic and asked for her help in locating her children. The sergeant working on the case was skeptical of psychics and was reluctant to use one. However, he relented and let the psychic come in and help. The psychic led the investigation to Hawaii, where they found the children living with their father, and all 3 of the children were returned safely to their mother. So this is Dora and Jake Kahn. On May 15th of 1986, they were shot and killed in their upstate New York home. Their grandson, James Mariani, became the prime suspect. It was believed that he had 2 accomplices, Keith Snare and Robert Skinner, with whom he knew from prison. 2 years later, when the case had already gone cold, the psychic Noreen Reiner was brought in by law enforcement at the Kahn's family request. Reiner revealed that the couple knew their killer and that there were 3 people involved. Law enforcement then arranged a photo lineup that included Marinari, Snare, and Skinner, along with 2 men that could not have possibly been connected with the shooting. The psychic then closed her eyes, placed her hands on the photo, and she identified the 3 involved in the killing. This led to a re-examination of their alibis, which it turned out they did not hold up. All 3 were convicted of murder and are serving prison sentences. So jumping back to the Project Stargate, we're going to talk about what remote viewing is, because a lot of psychics that work on any kind of police cases or cold cases will commonly use remote viewing. And what remote viewing is a very slight form of astral projection. So the psychic will actually go into a trance and be able to, in a sense, leave their physical body and be able to view a place or time that they aren't physically in. And they are able to see details, hear things, sense things. It's basically like a movie going on in front of you. And a good psychic will have the ability to control it, rewind it, fast forward it, slow it down, zoom it in, kind of thing. And this is a very, very effective way to be able to get details that the police otherwise wouldn't know. I was involved in 2 cold case files in Utah that we were able to successfully bring to a close. And in those cases, that is what I did. I did a remote viewing of the murder and where the bodies were buried. And both of them, they were able to bring the bodies home. They were both committed in their early to mid 80s. So it had been over 30 years, and we were able to bring them home. And I pass around a little sample of what happens when we do remote viewing. So in remote viewing, a psychic will either do what's called automatic writing or automatic drawing. While they're in that trance-like state, they will draw things that they see or write down words or sentences or things that they're hearing and put it to paper. So these 2, I'll pass them around so everybody can see them. So these are from 2 cases that I did. They weren't cold cases, but it was a paranormal investigation that my husband and I conducted. So I don't know if you all know this, but everywhere in Iowa is like 4 hours from everywhere else. So it's not always possible for me to get there when we have people call and ask for help. So I will do a remote viewing session to see what information I can gather so that I can give them tools to help themselves until we're able to get up to help them. And these are 2 of the automatic drawings that I did. I'm not an artist. It is not my strong point in life, but it's about as good as I could get. So these are, I'll pass these ones over here, and if you guys just kind of want to pass them back, and that way you can kind of see what it looks like. And these are very similar to the same thing that we will give to the police. The ones of the police are a bit more detailed because usually there are a lot more details involved. When I did the remote cases I worked on, there were a lot of gory details and things that we commonly don't want to know, but that's the information we're given. So that's kind of how remote viewing works, and automatic writing and drawing. Another thing that the psychics will use is called psychometry. And psychometry is just being able to pick up on energies, ideas, and things from physical objects. So a lot of the time the police will provide us with a personal object from the victim. And that allows us to have skin contact and allow us to kind of open up that door for us to get insight into their life and get a feeling of who they are. It can work for everything. We use psychometry every time I go antique hunting because my husband's not allowed to go without me. He brings home things that have things that I don't want in the house. Ugly things with ugly things attached. So we go antique shopping. I will use psychometry to determine if there's anything attached to it that I don't want to bring home because he likes weird wooden masks and statues and he has brought home some things. So psychometry is actually something that I personally believe everybody has an ability to do. It's innate in nature. Most animal species have these abilities to sense things that aren't in a physical way and detect it. That's why before there's a tornado that the animals are taking off. They have these abilities. We do too, but we're programmed to have them removed from our mind. It's not socially acceptable. So it's kind of taught out of us. And I brought a whole bunch of different kind of objects that kind of give you guys an idea of what psychometry is and what it does. It can be anything like old newspapers. This is the newspaper from Villisca, which I have investigated. I do not recommend ever. But this is one of the things that we got from Villisca. You can use pictures, you can use jewelry, old tools, anything that was tied to the person you're trying to get in contact with. And I'll pass some of these around, and I just kind of want to see if you guys can kind of tap into anything, get any feelings or ideas from these, and kind of see at the end if anybody can pick anything up. And don't worry, these are not tied to any murders. You're not going to get like any weird like...
So your objects are connected with something you're trying to find?
It's, so all of these have profound meaning in one way or another. And let me get a few more. And I just want to see if anybody can kind of pick up on any feelings, any words that come to mind when you touch it, anything that just kind of pops up that you're like, why would I be thinking that? That's commonly what psychometry is just tapping into feelings and ideas. And okay, here we'll do that one. Okay, and then just pass it on. Perfect. And while you guys are kind of looking at that, we'll just kind of keep going here.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
And this is backing up to remote viewing. Do you have to have something physically to connect to the remote viewing, or?
No, sometimes some psychics do. It depends on their abilities and how deeply they're willing to go, how comfortable they are going. Whenever I do a remote session viewing, because it is a form of astral projection, I do not do it without my husband there. He is my anchor, he is my safety net. Because in a sense, there is a part of your soul that is leaving your body momentarily, and it kind of leaves a shell, and it scares the hell out of me. So I make sure that my husband's there. My sister has the same exact abilities I do. We are 5th generation in with these abilities, but my sister's terrified. She won't even do anything at all. She won't go in on any investigations, she won't tap into it. So it just kind of depends on the psychic. I don't need any physical objects, but it does happen. It sometimes can give me, not so much with the remote viewing, but it will give me the connection in order to talk with them. So I have mediumistic abilities, so I'm able to communicate with the spirits, and that will sometimes draw them out. But they're not necessarily needed, but they do help. Although I've always said put gloves on because you don't need your fingerprints on nothing. I also had a strict rule that I wouldn't work on cases that I could be tied to in any way, shape, or form. So the ones I worked on, I was 4 years old, 5 years old, it couldn't have been me. I'm not having anything like that. I don't need that drama. Okay, so astral projection, full-blown astral projection is when the psychic actually fully leaves their body. It is an out-of-body experience. A lot of people will experience this with near-death experiences. Their soul has left their body and they're looking down on themselves. And it is incredibly eerie. It is very weird to look down and see yourself there. But you are able to travel differently. You're not bound by space and time as you are on the physical plane. A lot of psychics can do this. Some of them don't have control over it. It'll happen when they sleep, and that's a very, very scary thing. I'm very glad that I don't have that. But a lot of psychics will use this. I will not. I have never done full-blown astral projection, nor will I ever. It scares me too badly. Then, medium abilities. Everybody kind of ties psychic and medium together. They are two very different things. And a psychic is not your fortune teller who's going to tell you when you're going to win the lottery or what your husband's going to look like or how many kids you're going to have. That's all hooey. What a psychic is being able to see things, understand things, and know things that you have no physical way of knowing or seeing or understanding. A medium is somebody who can communicate with the dead. And not all psychics have medium abilities, not all mediums are psychics. I have both. Mediums, they can see, hear, smell, taste, or sense, be able to feel. They'll have all of them or they'll have some of them. It just kind of depends. I have all of them, so my head is kind of it's like if you walked into a room and everybody was talking all at once. Let's do a little experiment. Everybody right now, talk is just normal pace, just normal volume, but everybody just start talking, just start gabbing and just kind of If I don't tune that out, that is what it sounds like everywhere I go, every minute of every day. So I have to actively turn that switch off in my head because once you're kind of a beacon. So it's almost like you have like a Casey's sign above your head, hey, I can hear you, and they will come. And it can be quite overwhelming, but it can also be very helpful in a lot of ways. I have had spirits that have come to me and told me that something was going to happen. My son was going to be in a car accident. So I called my ex-husband up and I said, whatever you're doing, don't take Corbin anywhere today, keep him at home. I had a vision, I had, somebody come to me. Thankfully, even though I hate him, he listened to me and he didn't take him anywhere. But that's one of the benefits of it is I am, able to get a helpful guidance sometimes. But a lot of mediums, when they're working on cold cases, they will actually communicate with the spirits themselves. And how I got into all of this was because I got invited in on a cold case. I had never done any kind of paranormal investigation or anything, and in Utah, it is incredibly frowned upon. You either conform or you don't fit in. So I spent my entire life hiding my abilities. All of my family did, all the women in my family did. Because they think you're crazy. I brought it up one time and they actually tried to put me on lithium when I was 14. They tried to diagnose me with multiple personality disorder. Which I'm not saying I don't have, maybe, I don't know, but yeah, so we kept it quiet, and then I had a friend of mine who was working with a Utah FBI agent who had a couple of cold cases he was trying to wrap up before he retired. And she asked if I would come in and help. And I was like, well, sure, why not? And when I got to the office where we were meeting up, the first victim, the first case that we worked on, she came to me like immediately out the gate. I was just bombarded. She was getting quite frustrated with me because she was talking very quickly and I was trying to write down these things and she was yelling at me. And I just kept saying, calm down, calm down. And the agent's looking at me like I'm 17 shades of cuckoo because I'm talking to somebody who's not there. But she was the one who provided me all the information that we used to solve her case. I didn't get it from anything else, it was all her. She told me how she was murdered, who killed her, and where they put her body, which was actually, she was dumped 4 hours away in southern Utah mountain. So that's how the medium abilities work with cold cases, is sometimes they can communicate and get the information directly from the spirit instead of trying to get other vision. Yes?
Do they ever investigate you, like since you know that stuff? Do they?
Hence why I only do things when I was too small. Like if they came to me now and said, hey, we have this cold case that's, from 2010, I said, nope. Because a lot of the things have never been released to the public or they don't even know. So when you come up with these gory details, like they had no idea that this victim had been sexually assaulted, and she had. So that's why I'm super cautious about, here in Iowa would be different. I have an alibi. I lived, 17 hours away back then. But yeah, that is one thing that does concern me.
How did you know that you had the ability?
When I was 8 years old was the very first time spirits started coming to me. I was in bed asleep, and my father's dad, so my grandfather, whom he never knew, he was run over by a train when my grandma was 8 months pregnant with my dad. So my dad never even knew his father. But he came to me and said, I'm your grandpa, and I had no idea. My family didn't talk about him. Nobody knew him. My family were originally from Pennsylvania, so they had this weird Easterner, like nobody talks about anything kind of thing. And the next day I went to my mom and I was like, oh, I talked to Grandpa, and my mom's dad was still alive, and she's like, when did you talk to Grandpa? It's like, no, Dad's dad. And I described him. He was in his railroad overalls, the striped overalls, and he was missing a foot. Because that's how he got stuck in between the tracks and got hit. And these are all things not even my dad knew. And so that's kind of where it started. My mom's like, all right, we need to have a talk. So this is going to happen your whole life. My mom's the strongest psychic I know. She predicted my accident coming back from Las Vegas. And being young and stupid, I didn't listen. I went anyway, and it almost cost me my life. We rolled 4 times and went off an overpass, hitting black ice in a storm. And so now I listen to Mom. I don't go anywhere without calling her, being like, hey, is it okay to travel? But she, she sat down and talked to me about these abilities. It's been going on for generations. We don't talk about it, but don't be scared of it. And then 10 years ago, my oldest daughter, who was 8 at the time, came to me and said that she had a vision of her half-sister's suicide. So this is my ex-stepdaughter. And we did our best. We went to her dad, and her dad, again, thankfully believed me, but despite of all of our efforts, Brooklyn committed suicide 3 days later. And my daughter had seen it. She knew every detail of what was going to happen, when it happened, where. And she's the one who was able to tell police where to look. So that was the discussion I then had to turn around and have with my daughter. All right, listen, this is gonna happen your whole life. You can use it as a blessing or see it as a curse. And I guess we'll see where it goes from there, see if it keeps getting passed down. But that's how it was for me. And then I think we got, okay, so some of the agencies that will use psychics are federal, so the FBI. You can get local, county, state, or police, city police that will ask for our help. Usually they either have to be steadfast believers or desperate, or they have to be pushed by the family. Unfortunately, it's not a go-to yet. I'd like to see it get there. I think a lot more crimes could be solved if they would just open up their mind to it a little bit more. Because giving that family that closure is a really big deal. I'm still in contact with both of the families that I helped solve their child's case. So maybe someday we'll get there, but as of right now, no. Okay, on the items, did anybody pick up anything that they want to share? Any feelings or sensing anything? No? Okay.
Do spirits come to you like with, I don't know, the medium? Do the spirits choose a psychic to go through, or do you open yourself up to different situations, or?
There are times that I open myself up. If I'm doing readings for people, I obviously open that door. But then I usually have to weed out all of the background noise, because once you open that door, they all kind of flood in. If I'm incredibly tired or emotionally vulnerable, that door is harder to keep closed. So anytime that I'm emotional or, exhausted, that door usually swings open and they'll come in. They're always around me. I have probably about 5 spirits in my home. I had a spirit in my home in Utah that actually came with us, but I invited her to do so. She actually made the trip with us, and she's still with us. But yeah, I think they pretty much will go to anybody who has the ability to see and hear them. That's why children and animals will engage, is because that veil isn't there. I think a lot of times they'll just go to anybody who will listen and can listen. But pretty much everywhere I go. And sometimes I have to really actively walk it out, like if I'm at work. There's a lady that I do readings for, usually about once a month. She lost her son. And he's a spitfire, and he is determined, and it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I was in a deposition for work, and he was in my ear and I'm like, don't look like a crazy person and tell somebody to shut up that isn't there. Most of the time I can tune it out though. Any other questions?
Do you find yourself, example, Mrs. Guthrie that's missing? Do you find yourself watching TV or listening to things and think, hey, maybe I can help with this? Or, does the spirits come to you at that time? Because I'm thinking you've got this all going on and you're watching TV and thinking, maybe I can solve this one, maybe I can solve that one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does, and that is why I actively, so the news is so depressing anyway. I mean, it is nothing but bad all the time. Honestly, here, it was such a beautiful change, because in Utah, there's road rage, there's a shooting, there was somebody who broke into a neighbor's house 3 doors down from us in Springville. He was high on meth, broke into the house, made himself a sandwich, and the homeowner shot him dead. Utah's full. You wouldn't think it is, but Utah's got a crime rate that you wouldn't even believe. And so I stopped watching the news a long time ago, because it's very emotionally taxing to do that. I can't watch shows where people are being hurt. I can't watch anything where animals are being hurt. I'm far more sensitive to animals than I am humans. I tried watching that ASPCA show one time. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I was so heartbroken over, because it just hurt my soul. So I have to be cautious of what I watch, and what I allow myself to get into. I had a lady at one of our prior presentations who had a connection with a FBI agent here in Iowa. And she gave me his information because he is a believer, but I have not honestly reached out. So on top of working full-time, going to school full-time, I also own a hot dog food truck with my sister. And we do investigations and then we do presentations. So I don't have the ability to, oh, and we have 3 dogs. I just got a new puppy like 2 months ago. So my plate's full. So I try not to expose myself to anything that's going to harm everything else that I already got going on. But if somebody were to come to me and say, hey, listen, my son, my daughter, whatever, is missing, or, they needed help, I would absolutely jump in. But I can't go down that rabbit hole.
Do you ever get in on any of what happened to Johnny Gosh at all?
I don't know who that is.
All the time?
Yeah, this picture was up
Oh, what one?
One
Oh, yeah, the YouTube. No, I just stole this picture because I couldn't. The problem that I found trying to put this slideshow together, because this presentation is different than the one that I put on for the libraries, is that you can find a million pictures of the killers. And I refuse to acknowledge that. They don't need any more attention than they've already gotten. The victims deserve the attention. And they were incredibly hard to find. So yeah, I snagged a little screenshot there, but yeah. I don't really look into a lot of the cases. I don't even watch those like cold case files and stuff like that. I can't even go down that road. But I'd be open to doing it again if somebody needed help.
Do you ever have spirits come that just want to make you happy, that are just happy as can be and want to share, make you feel good?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it all?
Oh, most of them are good. I don't have a lot of bad experiences. I have a lot of them that just show up just to say hi. I have some of them that are attached to people I do readings for. One of the ladies I've gotten incredibly close with, her mother, actually just pops in to brighten my day when I'm in a really bad mood, because she's kind of like the class clown and she's fun and she'll pop in. And she is now like my adopted Nana. So, yes, dear, you had your hand up.
Yes, I didn't quite understand what you said. It sounds like there's this enormous conversation in the background all the time. What do you mean by that?
With all of the spirits that are trying to talk to me at all times, if I don't close that door, then that is what I can constantly hear. Everybody else may not be able to hear it, but I can actually hear it as though I am right next to them.
So like a radio, you can turn it off. How do you do it?
So the way I do it is I envision a giant light switch, and I walk up to it and I hang off of it until it flips off, and then it's off. And then when I'm ready to turn it back on, I go in and turn it on. Every psychic does it differently, but that's my route. That's how I visualize turning it off and making sure it's...
So out of that background conversation, do you connect with maybe one of that crowd or not?
So if I'm focused on it, I can connect with the one person that I'm trying to connect to and weed out the rest. Most spirits are very, very respectful, and if I just say, hey, can everybody be quiet for a minute? I'm trying to talk, they generally will. And there are some that are, just like there are some people who don't know social etiquette, but those ones you just kind of have to go, shh, like you're talking to a toddler. Yes.
How many times have you been to Melissa?
I have been twice. The second time, well, absolutely, it was my last. I will not step foot there again, ever.
Where?
Saliska.
You just feel a lot of dark.
What did you say?
Melissa.
Saliska,
Oh,
Axe Murder
Saliska.
House, yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend that takes it from every year.
I will not step foot. We had a lot of negative this last time. Unfortunately, the person who is now managing it, I guess decided the place wasn't haunted enough. And he went and bought a haunted doll on eBay and filled it with the dirt from Jeffrey Dahmer's grave, and then did some seances. And so now there is a demonic spirit on top of what was already there. The first time we went, we had a positive experience and were able to get a lot of information. The second time, it was nothing but terror. I ended up with scratches that started at the base of my head and went down to the bottom of my back that actually needed bandages. My daughter, I'm not taking my little kids now, I have grown children. my oldest daughter, who she was 22 at the time, she was actually taken over and possessed. My husband was chased out of the house, and I do mean chased. My husband ran out of there and said, I don't give a about the equipment, leave it, I'm done. And this is a man who grew up with a demon in his home. So nothing scares him, but that scared him.
Where was this?
At Belisca.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, so I won't go back there.
Yeah, I said to my friend, aren't you afraid they're gonna go with you, some of those spirits? And she said, no, we have a little thing we say. And
Yeah. We always cleanse ourselves. Yeah, we are actually going to Edinburgh Manor on Saturday. I'm so excited about that one. But before we get there, before we leave, we always make sure we're not bringing anything home. I got enough going on in my house. Yes.
When you talk about these spirits always talking to you, kind of, how far back, what's the oldest one that pops up? I mean, are they within your lifetime, or is it going back to 1800s, or?
I've encountered a few of them, especially in Utah. When we were doing some of our investigations there is a lot of history between the Mormons and the Indians. There was a lot of massacres that transpired, and on one of the investigations we were on, the park that we were in was actually Indian grounds at one point, and I actually had several Native American spirits communicating with me that were from way back, like when we were first getting here, kind of thing.
And where, I mean, they weren't speaking their native tongue, and saying, okay, you're not, how do you?
There's an understanding. So the one lady that I was telling you about that she comes to cheer me up when I'm in a bad mood, she's actually Italian. And even though I don't speak her language, I understand her. And she understands me. It's almost like a conversation in your head with like an auto translator. There are words that sometimes don't come through in English, and I'll have to text my friend, okay, she said this, what does this mean? And a lot of the time she's telling me I need to eat. But sometimes there are communication blocks, but most of the time there's not. I always kind of wondered that too, if you went somewhere. I've always wanted to go to the Vlad the Impaler's in Transylvania, his castle, to investigate. But I always wondered, they absolutely know English, how will that work? But so far I haven't encountered any kind of translation issues.
Have you ever found or suspected that the spirit was lying to you?
Yes. Yes.
So you can't really trust what they say?
It's more of a feeling. I can tell when humans are lying, like live humans, I can tell when they're lying to me. My mom always called me a human lie detector. I guess it's a part of the ability that I have, but I can sense when spirits are lying to me too. They very much mimic the same body responses because they were human. So when they're lying, they will do a lot of the same things that you'll notice in humans. You'll see them fidget or look down, or yeah. And depending on if you know you're dealing with a negative spirit, like the killer at Belisca, Linus will be, I know he is. He killed people with an axe. I'm not going to believe anything he says. But normal everyday people, the spirits of normal everyday people, they have no reason to lie.
So all spirits are dead, meaning physically, your body is dead.
Yes.
That you can contact, or that contact you.
Yes. Yep. Sometimes I will get somebody who has incredible piercing blue eyes, and I'll be able to say, oh, he's got the most incredible eyes, or he's got a beautiful beautiful smile, but most of the time the face is skewed.
Some religions say, stay away from this, stay away from the spirit world and stuff, it's dangerous, and we shouldn't meddle in it.
I grew up in an entire state full of that.
I can see, you seem like you trained, you know how to handle, I would not know how to handle a spirit that was gonna be evil to me. I wouldn't know what to do. It seems like you've got the ability to turn things off or to sense danger and stuff. I feel like you've got a handle on that, but for most people, it's kind of a scary thing.
It's a scary thing, but they're not evil. There are a lot of people who are incredibly scared, and rightfully so. You start seeing a plate shift across your table and nobody's touching it, yeah, that's gonna freak you out. Me, I'm like, don't break it. I'll make you replace it. I had a conversation last night. I came downstairs at 1 o'clock in the morning to get my drink, and I have 6 kids, so there's a bathroom break at least every 3 hours. So going downstairs to get my drink, and my little basket full of yarn, which I don't even know why I own. I tried crocheting once like 100 years ago, but it still sits there. And the crochet was rolling inside of the basket. And I kind of stood there for a second going, I'm really tired, I don't know what's going on right now. And I think whatever spirit was frustrated, and it kind of like slapped it, and it rolled and it bounced out, and I was like, yeah, it pisses me off too, so I don't mess with it. And I just went off the drain. It doesn't faze me. Even with the evil spirits that I have encountered, I can tell you I have encountered humans that are far more evil and far more terrifying than any spirit, entity, or anything else. My ex-husband, to be precise, was abusive. Used to beat me within an inch of my life. That man is evil. I can handle spirits. Spirits have a set of rules. They are bound by laws. Evil, not evil, they are bound. And no matter what, as a human, you have more power. I can get rid of anything because I have a physical body. I have energy. I make my own energy. And my own personal spiritual beliefs are strong enough that I can command anything to leave. And I have. Like I said, my husband grew up with a demon, a generational demon, because his dad was an idiot and messed with things he shouldn't have, and it attached. And when I met my husband, it tried to follow him. And I wasn't having none of that, and neither was my daddy. My daddy was a real badass in life, and he isn't dead too. We got rid of that thing so fast, and my husband hasn't had a problem with it since. It just depends on how strong you're willing to be. You have the power, you just have to be able to exude it. They're never stronger than us.
Going back to yarn, what do the dogs think?
So, my poor dogs, we joke around all the time. I'm like, oh, they see dead people. Because all of a sudden, and they're Frenchies, so they're kind of squatty and lazy anyway. So somebody could break into my house and they will not bark. They will bark at my son who comes downstairs, who lives there, but they don't bark at any, so they don't even make, they'll do like a woof and then just look at it. And I'm like, oh, you see the dead person, okay. We actually take them, but we're taking, not the puppy, because he's a terror yet, but we're taking the 2 other dogs with us to Edinburgh because they are able to detect it sometimes before I am.
I don't know the number.
So it's in Scotch Grove, Iowa, and it was a poor farm and then a insane asylum until 2010. It opened up in 1890.
Did you say Scotch Grove?
Mm-hmm.
There's only like 20 people live there, isn't there?
Maybe living, I think there's a lot more that are. They apparently have a lot of spirits in that abandoned building.
They turn lights on, flashlights
Yeah.
on, and do all kinds of stuff.
And I'm a history nerd, always have been, always will be, the history behind it. We've been to Squirrel Cage, we've been everywhere, and the history behind these places is what fascinates me. The ghosts are a perk when we can get some evidence or whatever, but going to these buildings is fascinating, especially the psych wards. Because I was hanging on a thread there in Utah for a while where I was almost committed. So I'm kind of more curious, like, with how this goes and the history behind how they operated, the things that they did, the frontal lobotomies, things like that, what they considered treatments for mental health. So the history of it, I'm excited for, but I guess we'll see what pans out there.
Can you say the name of that place that you have been going to?
Edinburgh Manor,
Edinburgh.
yeah. Yeah, it's huge, yeah, it's gonna be,
It's right here in Scottsgrove?
yes, it's in Scottsgrove, yeah. We discussed paranormal our investigations, but I figured everybody seems to enjoy looking at them and seeing them, so we just brought our basic equipment, and if you guys want to come up and look at it, and you know, you can touch it, pick it up, most of it's pretty durable, because I have been so scared that I have dropped things and ran, so. But yeah, so we have our basics, that we have our cameras, we have a FLIR infrared or thermal imager. We actually have two of these. We have a handheld one. This is ridiculous. I won this at Pizza Ranch. But I thought, hey, you know what? It might be really cool to take on an investigation. And we took it on our Villisca investigation, and we actually captured footage of fingertips in the kids' rooms against it, where you could see them touching it in the dark. And this has been a big hit every place that we have gone. So, I mean, best $20 I ever spent on arcade games. And then we've got just the EMF readers.
What is that doing? Oh.
So this detects electromagnetic fields, which are everywhere, all the time, especially anything with electronics. So we will use these mostly to determine if there are naturally occurring electromagnetic fields, so we're not saying, oh, it's evidence when it's not, it's a light switch. So then we've got a trifield meter or meter, so that will detect temperature, electromagnetic field, and background radiation, which goes off everywhere in Utah. Just so you all know, I come from a place where we are downwinders, we are microdosed. So everything out there, you constantly have background radiation. That's what we had it. And then this is just a motion detector that you use in your house. And you just set it up and it'll ding. We're gonna go, now I need to put batteries on.
Every time the yarn moves.
Yeah, honestly, I just put a couple of times I thought about putting it up, but then that would make me jump. So I shouldn't jump scare as easy as I do, but I do. I can't even watch scary movies. And then we have our little REM pods, and these function off of an electromagnetic field. And so you have to be incredibly close in order to engage it. Like I can stomp, I can move the table, and it doesn't go. You actually have to have a physical presence there. So the idea behind that is that when a spirit interacts, it'll go off. And we set these up in front of all of our cameras.
It'll go off for spiritual.
Yeah, if like a spirit or an entity comes close to it, it goes off like that. So what the presentation that I was doing in, oh gosh, where was it? In Harlan. That thing was going off so often that I actually had to turn it off because it was interrupting the presentation. It just kept going off. And then I also had our, my audiosat set up to show people, and then I forgot to turn it off. And it kept firing off these words. I'm like, oh my gosh. So even some of the libraries we've been to, we've had to disengage some of the equipment. And then we have a little, you're gonna be, oh, of course you die. Anyway, batteries and everything. There's a little laser grid, and it will put up a little diamond pattern, and we'll set those in front of our cameras, so that way if there is like a shadow or something that goes in front of it, we'll be able to capture it on the camera. We have walkie-talkies. We've got trigger objects, which can be, Yeah, so I think trigger objects can be anything. It can be any object that will help the spirit to come and talk to you. We've got teddy bears that have a REM pod in it that will go off for like when we go anywhere where there's children. We've used all kinds of things, the tools, everything. But
Who is we?
my husband and I and our son. So we have a paranormal investigation team. It consists of me, my husband, my 2 oldest sons, and then my sister, who doesn't actually go on the investigations, but she does our history and our diving into like the historical societies and everything. And then my mom, who again doesn't go on most of these, but she helps out with reviewing footage. So
So when you go to Scotch Grove, which of those things will you take?
So all of this will be going and then some. So this is my little tiny library case. We have 3 of those. We've got tripwires, EMF tripwires, any of those really cool tech that you see on these ghost hunting shows. We've got it. My husband has a technology issue, the order of it. So he scoops up all the stuff that we could possibly have. We have like 7 or 8 of these little REM pods, and we take all of this with us. When we use our trigger objects, the 2 that have been absolute dead fire every time is whiskey and cigarettes. I can get any spirit to talk, especially grumpy old men. With the whiskey, they will talk to me every time. With whiskey, yeah, with a little bottle of whiskey, I can get them to talk to me. We use low tech items too. We just use bells that they can use, low reception bells, to communicate with us when they're near us. I hate this thing because we have one of these at the front desk of my office, and I hear this in my nightmares. But we use one anyway. And we have these little light up cat balls. This one's about dead. Here we go. There we go. So these will light up with extreme force. We were able to use this at Ballista and capture it going off without anybody around it. So it just lights up whenever there's force. We have a lot of things that light up. I don't know why we stopped investigating at night. I am too damn old to be out until 2 o'clock in the morning.
I was gonna ask, it seems that all the ghost shows are always at night, they're going in the dark places.
Yeah, they're also in their 20s and have a lot more, you know. I stopped investigating at night about 10 years ago. We're actually doing Edinburgh Manor during the day. If it's haunted in the day, it's haunted at night. I don't need to be up until 3, throwing my schedule off.
Are there any theories on how your spirits maybe trigger things?
A lot of the times they will have to manifest energy either from electronic devices, so a lot of times our batteries will die. I have a massive case of batteries that I carry. Let's see, is it in this one? You might be in this one. No. I carry the little fishing, oh, that's in there. I carry at least a couple of these to every investigation we do. And they have every size battery you could imagine, and I will go through these. I can keep Energizer in business just with the amount of batteries I have to buy. So they'll draw energy from the equipment, they will draw energy from people. I don't permit that. I put a hard pass on that and say it's not permitted, you're not allowed to take any energy from us.
What's not permitted?
For the spirits to take any of my energy in order to manifest themselves, I don't have enough of it for me. So we actually have a little device that emits an electromagnetic field that they can use to manifest.
What's the walkie-talkies for?
In these large buildings, if we have investigators and different sides of the buildings, we have the walkie-talkies to talk to them. Yeah, better than screaming down the hall. So my husband doesn't want to hear me screaming, doesn't like it. Any other questions?
You said something about that they have rules.
Yes.
You figured out what can they pass, what can, I mean, how can they break the rules or not, or?
They can break the rules if you permit it. If you allow it, if you don't stop it. Especially the negative spirits, which in our culture we tend to gear towards demonic. They are actually bound by more rules than just the run-of-the-mill spirit. And for instance, so the demonic entities that we have encountered, my husband grew up LDS, he grew up Mormon, and he was actually active in the church, received his priesthood, and actually married his ex-wife in the temple. But because that is his belief system, and it is incredibly strong, he uses the Mormon priesthood as a way to get rid of any of the Mormon spirits. So he commands it in the name of Christ to leave. And those are rules that are bound by an earthbound church. They have to be followed. So when he says it, it happens. It's like a vacuum sucking out.
But would it be different for a different person that had different beliefs? A human person, I mean, not
Yes.
spirit.
Yes, it all depends on your beliefs, and no belief is wrong. I personally don't think any of them are wrong. They probably all get a little bit right. I practice a lot of belief systems based off of Buddhism. I do things like chakra cleansing, things like that. But my belief system is still the Western-based Christian belief system. Everybody's different, but it's the power and the strength that you have behind it. It's as long as you enforce the rules. You are not allowed to touch me. You are not allowed to hurt me. I command you to leave this home. You are not allowed to be here. Doesn't mean they won't come back, but they do have to leave.
So you don't need pentagrams or circles or anything like that, anything physical that they can't get through. I mean, you know, some.
No, we use like sage and Palo Santos, and we do the smudging. So my husband actually has Native American blood in him, and he actually, the White Sands Indian Reservation in Utah, a family up there, so he grew up kind of learning about that, and so we use that. Some people use holy water, some people use the Bible. It just kind of depends on what your belief system is. Holy water or the Bible. There are a lot of different Bible verses, prayers, things that you can say that will get the same results. It just depends on what your beliefs are, because your beliefs are what fuel your power.
So it doesn't matter what the spirit's beliefs were.
No, no. It's more because you have more energy than they do. They're incapable of getting energy without taking it. So your energy is always stronger. And it also depends on how set you are on not tolerating it. I don't take crap from anybody living or dead, so when I go into a place and somebody wants to mess with me, I'm like, I am not in the mood. No. No. And so I don't get messed with as much as some of the other people that we've had on investigations. Maybe they can tell I'm cranky. Because usually I'm cranky, I know I'm not in the mood. But it just kind of depends on how forceful you are with it.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
When you said you had physical scratches on your back,
Mm-hmm.
so was that caused from them throwing something at you, or did they break through to this world?
The demons that was in there, that had been summoned there, scratched me, so I had 3 scratches about that far and width apart, all the way down, and they actually opened up and drew blood. And that was its way of trying to scare me. It didn't, it just made me angry. So I usually everything for fear turns to, I kind of turn a little bit angry, but so it was trying to get a reaction out of me.
It physically come through, like.
Oh, they do it all the time.
Their body came through, like
Yeah.
their fingers came through
Yeah.
this realm.
So the demon in my husband's, or my father-in-law's house, when we were very first dating, my husband was living with his dad, and I had spent the night there one night, but we both worked at a bar. We worked late, so I just spent the night there, and that demon actually choked me. It actually put its hands on me and choked me. And
See it?
yes, I could, and so the room was completely black, but the only way I could describe it is blacker than black. I could see its entire form, its hands, everything. I'm not entirely sure if that's because of my abilities. His daughter's claimed that they could see it too when they were there. But yeah, they will actually manifest in physical form. Even human spirits can do that sometimes, and they'll play with your hair. There is a place in, yeah, they'll touch you, you'll feel your hair move. There is a, growing up, I had a friend that owned a little tiny family diner in this little town in Utah called Stefanie. And there was this dirty old man in there that just was handsy as could be, and any woman who walked in there, he was grabbing their ass or somewhere else, and they absolutely, you will see a handprint on these poor girls' butts, and you're like, oh, but. And you have to be like, you can't do that. But they'll manifest a lot of times physical, especially if they learn how to do it.
So in terms of working on cases, is there a network of psychics? I mean, do you know other psychics that you contact and work with to help figure out cases or anything like that?
So I do not. I'm sure that there are a lot of really renowned psychics that work on cases that are really well known across the country. I don't know how they network. I never explored it that far. Never made it, I guess, a priority in my life where it was the main thing I was doing. But I'm sure they must. I mean, they're psychics, right? They've got to be able to network somehow.
Well, what is the Iowa Psychics Bureau or something like that?
That's our paranormal investigation team.
That's you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, and that's us. Yeah, and we try to be the dead opposite of all these little kids that you're seeing on these shows and everything where they're going and acting a fool. We are there to have an understanding and try to understand the history, and sometimes even if we can't help the spirits move on. I don't like the idea of somebody being trapped there and people exploiting that. So we try to help them move on as often as we can.
So you do get contacted by sheriffs or FBI or whatever?
So I got, the way I got involved in it, the two different cases I worked on was through a friend of mine in Utah. She was a personal friend of the FBI agent, and he had mentioned bringing in a psychic, and she said, I know one. Other than that, I haven't had any experience working with law enforcement.
Because there were a couple of little girls just west of here in Evansville that were kidnapped and they were found dead, and that's been many years. And I just wondered if they had ever tried to get a psychic to help.
Most of them won't. The problem is on the legal aspect too, is that there has to be a trail, a defined trail of how evidence was secured. It has to be admissible into court. And so that's why a lot of them don't reach out, is because how do you explain to a judge, oh, I hired a psychic because I couldn't figure it out. So a lot of them won't. There are ways around it. They don't have to disclose how they found the information. They just have to have that chain of evidence kept a certain way. But I don't think most people are open to that, especially those in law enforcement. They tend to be more analytical. So I think most of them wouldn't. I think most of them think it's hooey. So, but I would absolutely love, to help out in those things. If I ever had somebody reach out, that'd be great. But I think a lot of them just tend not to, especially from somebody. I still have that outsider thing. It's somebody coming in from somewhere else. They might not be as open to, which is everywhere you go. Any other questions?
You have very many people that come to you and, example, want to find their spouse that's passed. Can you tell me what they're thinking? Can I making communication, or a parent or a child?
As far as somebody who's passed on.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of parents to child. I work with several mothers who sadly lost a child, and those ones are always the hardest cases because it still is my biggest fear in life. I don't think I'd bounce lot of those cases that I have that I work on, that they just want to, I guess, get closure.
So do they find your number somewhere?
We
or
have a
call
website,
you and-
yeah, we have a website, and my email address and my phone number are listed on there, and anytime somebody contacts me, just get back to them and as quick as possible. And I probably get 3 or 4 new emails a week from people wanting readings, or people needing a cleansing or an investigation, or thankfully these libraries. I've had a lot of the libraries reach out, which I love doing. So, but yeah, we have a lot of people contacting us, which is crazy for me, because in Utah, I couldn't even have done anything like this. But the open-mindedness and the willingness to have that experience is really wonderful here.
Have you ever heard anything from doing that example, you didn't want to repeat to
All the time,
the loved one?
all the time.
So then you filter through that?
No.
No?
No, I don't filter anything, even the things that don't want. Sometimes there was an instance where I was doing a reading where the lady had lost her husband, and I think he was intentionally trying to make me uncomfortable, because he was kind of that, like, to be a jokester and kind of a, in life, but he was trying to make me uncomfortable, and some of the things I had to relay was not things I wanted to be talking about with this woman, but I just relay what they tell me to relay. So, not always comfortable, but it happens. Anybody else? Okay, just so everybody knows, I do have a sign-up sheet here. We are starting to do newsletters, and then we are lining up paranormal investigations that we're gonna allow the public in on. To come with us to some of these places, not Belisca. But if you guys want to sign up for our newsletter or information on these, I have a sign-up sheet up here.